Hello designers of the world, welcome to NKV ARTS. Today I'm going to show you how to make a trouser in the easiest way. So the material required for the trouser is 1 meter and a quarter. So we are starting with the front part. These are my measurements. With the trouser I've measured the waist to 31.5. Waist to hip. The hip is not so necessary, but you just measure for emergency. The thigh and full length plus the hem, which is the bottom width. Now I start by making a line up here. So we are making here a line, a waistline. I'm showing you the easiest way of making. So we first shape the waist, and we are starting with the front part. The waist is 31.5 and the full length is 36. So we start by shaping the waist. The waist will start from here. We curve it a little depending on the size of the person. If the person is too big, you continue a bit. Now some men have some part which is bigger, like the hips of a lady, so you add in somewhat bit of adjustment on that curve. You curve it a little bit, then we get our waist divided by 4. 31.5 divided by 4, it is we use our tape measure. Finally we get we've got 7 3/4. 7 3/4, we bring it here and we mark. So if you're going to apply the pleats on the front part, you have to add here the allowance. If you're not adding, like me, I'm not adding, so I will not add an allowance. I will add the ease of a half inch. Then I add 2 inches for the fly. So I will transfer this measure here. This is 9.5. I transfer it down here, and I add the 2 inches. So I make this line. After doing that, we are now going to waist to hip, which is 7.5. Waist to hip 7.5. 7.5 is here. How to make sure the waist to hip measurement is accurate while measuring the person, and we make this line here. Then this is where the fly stops. And after measuring the waist to hip, now add 2 inches to get the crotch line. This is the crotch line. So on the crotch line is where we are going to apply measurement for the thigh. Okay? And the thigh is 21. That is what we bring here, 21. 21 divided by 2, we bring here, it is 21 divided by 2, it is and we shall add the ease allowance of a half. So after this curve, we now come here for the pocket. Where the pocket will be, we come and measure here 6.5. After stitching, it will be around 6 inches. So the half is the stitching allowance up. So we mark there like that. And here we have to raise by 1.5 inches. And here, this side, we measure 2 inches. This is the pocket. So from that point, we now come to measure the full length of the trouser. Our full length is here, the 36 inches. Come and measure. So the 36 inches, we have to remove the allowance for the what? For the waistband. And for me, the waistband, I normally use 1.25 inch. So if we remove 1.25 out of 36, we shall get, we remain with 34.75. 34.75, remember that one we have not included stitching allowance. So if we add stitching allowance of up here of a half inch, we shall remain with 35.25. 35.25. So we measure our 35.25. 35.25 is here. That is the 35.25. Here we shall measure 1 inch. After measuring 1 inch, we shall now join remember we have measured full length at this side, but when we are measuring the inside leg from here to here, we shall add 1/4, because here we first of all measured 34.75 plus a half, which is 0.5, and we got 35.25. So now when we are measuring from this side up to this point, the inside leg, we have to add, we add 1/4, and finally we shall measure 35.5 as the full length for the inside leg. Stand here properly. You measure 35.5. So now we are done with the full length measurement. So we shall add 1.5 for hemming allowance. 1.5. That is now our full length plus the hemming allowance. From there, we shall come to the hem, which is the bottom width. It is 13. So 13 divided by 2. 13 divided by 2, we shall get 6.5. Come and we measure 6.5. So we add a half as is, and there is no allowance that we shall add on the front part. So after that, we now join. We join with a straight line. After joining with a straight line, we have to again come and grade. We curve a bit inside. Now here, we can now cut. We can start cutting as we proceed. So before we shape here, we shall first cut. After cutting that part, we now fold like this. Fold it properly. Now we proceed with this is the front part. So we don't need to forget the notches. Here we notch this part. Can call it notch or clipping. This part will also clip. Or you can also clip. That is our pattern, our front part for our trouser. And you have to mark on this one as the wrong side for the front. So after laying the front piece on the material for us to cut the what? To cut the back. Remember, we have to leave here some allowance, like 2 inches for the back adjustments. Remember, we are going to only make the back part waistline a bit raised as compared to the front. Let's start. So when it's like this, we start by marking these lines. These are the major lines we pull out. Even here, the same. Like this. So from there, we have to mark at this point here. It will help us after some time. After marking that point, and we have to also come on the hemline. So here we are adding 1 inch. Here we are adding 1 inch. Let's add with some ease of a quarter, and we make 1¼ inch. As you never know, you have to add some ease always whenever you feel suspicious. Hope you know that. So from there, we can now first take off our front part, and we deal with the back alone. Remember we talked of we measured our waist, which was 31.5 divided by 2, then by 2 again, and that is 4 times, and finally we got 7¾ That's what we mark. So we have to add 2 inches and a half. That 2½ inches contains 1 inch for the back darts, and it contains a half inch for the ease, and the 1 inch for the stitching allowance of the front and the back. Remember, we didn't add any allowance on the front. We only added ease. Now from there, we join this part to this point. On joining, that is what we get. So from there, the next part is adding here we come and put here the allowance for the back part. That will help to shape the back part. We add 2½ or 3 inches, but for now let me add I prefer 3 inches for medium sizes. From there, we now curve. That 3 inches has stitching allowance in it already, so you can now braid a bit while curving. It is okay since we added the ease, and that is it. So from there, we again bring the what? The front here. We have to make sure this point is attached on this line, and also we make sure this point is also going to get attached to this line here, and we have to raise this point by 1½ inches. 1½. We raise the back. After raising, we join. We now have to join this part to this. So from there, we allocate where the dart will be. You measure 4.5. Actually, we start by measuring, depending on the size of the person. Let's use 4 and then 5. So that is our dart. And now we are ready to cut. Try to get down to see. I have now finished cutting the body of the trouser. So the remaining pieces, we need to cut the pocket facings for the front. Here we can measure like 3 inches. And here we have to lower a bit. We lower by something like a half. Now we cut. The pocket facings for the front. After this, now we go for the waistband. The waistband, I'll make one of this is the front part. Have to make sure we keep these things well. We end up cutting them. So with the waistband, the waist is 31.5. 31.5 divided by 2. We shall get how many? We shall get something like 15.25. So 15 and 3/4. That is exactly 18 and 3/4. 15 and 3/4. 15 and 3/4, it is here. So 15 and 3/4 is here. So we leave this for stitching allowance. And first of all, divide to get the two pieces. So we are remaining with the same length, and the width we shall use 2.5. 2.5, that contains the stitching allowance and the waistband allowance. So we shall be reducing while stitching. Divided by 2, then by 2 again, and that is 4 times. And finally, we got 7 and 3/4. That's what we mark. So we have to add 2 inches and a half. That 2.5 inches contains 1 inch for the back darts, and it contains a half inch for the ease, and the 1 inch for the stitching allowance of the front and the back. Remember, we didn't add any allowance on the front. We only added ease. Now from there, we join this part to this point. On joining, that is what we get. So from there, the next part is adding here we come and put here the allowance for the back part. That will help to shape the back part. We add 2.5 or 3 inches, but for now let me add I prefer 3 inches for medium sizes. From there, we now curve. That 3 inches has stitching allowance in it already. So you can now grade a bit while curving. It is okay since we added the ease, and that is it. So from there, we again bring the what? The front. Now the issue is now here. We have to make sure this point is attached on this line, and also we make sure this point is also going to get attached to this line. So we mark properly. And therefore, that is done. We now come here, and we have to raise this point by 1.5 inches. 1.5. We raise the back. So from there, we allocate where the dart will be. you measure 4.5. Actually, we start by measuring depending on the size of the person. Let's use 4 and then 5. And now we are ready to cut. So finally, this is the back part. So the remaining pieces, we need to cut the pocket facings for the front. Here we can measure like 3 inches. And here we have to lower a bit. We lower by something like a half. The pocket facings for the front. After this, now we go for the waistband. So with the waistband, the waist is 31.5. 31.5 divided by 2. We shall get how many? We shall get something like 15.25. or 15 and 3/4. That is exactly 18 and 3/4. 15 and 3/4. 15 and 3/4, it is here. So 15 and 3/4 is here. So we leave this for stitching allowance. And so we are remaining with the same length, and the width we shall use 2.5. 2.5, that contains the stitching allowance and the waistband allowance, so we shall be reducing while stitching. So I'm making the waistband of this size because I'm going to apply. So we are going to include the already made waistband for inside. Since I'm going to use one pocket, I need 4 pieces of 3 inches wide and 7 inches long. These are the flaps for the back. We cut the linings for both the back and front pocket. So with the back pocket, just need something of 8. Something of 8. So 8 inches. And the length should be around 19 to 18. It depends on the size of the person and also on what the person wants. So this is 18. I have not reduced on it. So this is the back pocket, and since I'm going to make one side pocket, this is enough. So I now go for the front. With the front, I'm going to measure, you can call it the sack of the pocket. The length I'm using 9 inches. Can use 9.5. Let me use 10 for this case. 10. So 10. This is 10. I come here, we raise by 2 inches and we make a slight curve of that kind, but the width you can even remain with the 9 or 8.5. This is exactly where I've marked. So this way, and 6.5 finally is shaping like this. This is our front pocket sack. With the remaining piece, the other side, you can do it yourself. We shall do later. So now the drafting is done. The patterns, the pieces are ready for sewing. Subscribe for more videos and make sure you watch the one of sewing. Don't miss. This is NKV ARTS. Please subscribe, share the video, and still catch up on more products, more items, more fashions.